Update. Am I the a-hole for throwing my brother's prison trauma in his face to prove a point? Original post. My brother has always been an angry, hot-headed thug. Since he was a small kid, he showed violent behavior, idolized gangs, and would just generally be a prick to everyone. He's the kind of guy that goes on about respecting him and tries to intimidate everyone just because he can. When he was a teenager, it escalated dramatically, and our parents tried whatever they could to fix it. He started using drugs when he was 16. By the time he was 19, he went to prison for 2 years. Prison changed him. After he got out, he was not the same guy. He flinched when you touched him, slept with the lights on, and added an extra lock to the door of his room when he stayed with my parents. He was broken. He eventually had a full-blown mental breakdown where he started talking about what happened. It was about as bad as you expected. His combative nature isolated him day one and made him a target for all kinds of abuse this entire sentence. He's been in therapy for years. He's 32 now. He went back to school, met a nice woman, and is actually turning his life around. Our relationship isn't perfect, and it will never be fully healed, but he's trying to actually be a human being. The problem has been the last couple months. You can see it on his face, the way he acts. He's slowly going back to his old ways. He acts aggressive around mom and dad. When he's out, he tries to pick fights again. The people he hangs around with are known violent felons and suspected dealers. He had a girlfriend for about a year, but she left him because he started frequently screaming, throwing things around their apartment, and threatening to hurt her. It's obvious he's using again. He is slowly unraveling and throwing away years of progress. Our parents tried talking to him, offered rehab, offered for him to stay with them for some time. He flipped out at our parents, and after years of his crap, they simply walked away and blocked him for the time being. They spent years and countless dollars before and after his sentence to try and help him. They were done. I tried talking to him. His place was a mess, and he had empty alcohol bottles and pill containers scattered around his place. He got hostile very quickly when I pointed out the obvious and threatened me. I snapped and brought up what he told us about his prison time and told him it would all be waiting for him again if he doesn't fix his act, and that this time his family won't be waiting to help clean up his mess. It shut him down super quickly, and he just curled up on a couch and weakly told me to leave. I felt terrible since I brought it up, but he is gladly throwing away years of progress for the same crap that got him in trouble in the first place. He knows what prison is like, and he is doing everything he can to go back there. He's spitting in the face of everyone who went to bat for him, chasing the same highs that almost destroyed his life. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Tough love. Tough for you having to say it to your brother, and tough for him being reminded of that time. Not a-hole. Not a-hole. Sometimes you just can't help the drowning man who's slapping you away from saving him. Even if they're family, they're not worth it, despite the emotional connection. There are thousands of people who are in your brother's position, and they're actively trying their darndest to stay on course for their family, friends, and themselves. Not a-hole. Somewhere along the lines, he fell back in with bad people who had him relapse, and somehow he compartmentalized his past prison trauma, probably to justify his relapse and tell himself it's okay. You are giving him a loud reminder to wake up if he doesn't want to go through all that again. It may be tough, he may think you're the a-hole, but he probably 100% needed to hear it. I hope he reaches out to you, since you seem to still be open to contact, and asks for help so he can get better again. Now for the first update. Last night, my brother got high and trashed his apartment. He punched holes in the walls, destroyed furniture, and busted windows. Utterly destroyed his place. He tried kicking a neighbor's door in and throw rocks through their window when they yelled they were calling the police, and threatened to unalive them. Police came. He tries fighting them and got himself beat badly. They took him to the hospital. He calmed down for enough time to call me to the hospital. It was unintelligible, but I got the gist of it. And yes, I shouldn't have gone to see him. But by the time I got there, he had lost his mind again and was in 4-point restraints. He was screaming and practically feral. I couldn't even get any words in before I decided to leave. From what I can gather from the cops there I talked to, they found a ton of drugs. He assaulted a police officer, destroyed his apartment, and damaged a neighbor's front door and window, threatened to end a neighbor, tried to escape arrest, hit a nurse, bit a tech. And to top it off, he was already in trouble for sending threats to his ex. So yeah, he's going back to prison for a much longer time. I'm done with him. Our parents are done. Everyone is done with him. And frankly, I'm very okay with that since I finally am free of the stress he brings. He didn't learn a damn thing. I'd ask for the family to get together and address how he is to be handled going forward. Make your wishes known and explicit. You'll want to address your no contact with them as well, so they don't let on to how to locate you or contact info should you happen to move. That's not an issue. To clarify, the only person I'm going no contact with is my brother. My parents and extended family are joining in going no contact with him. Congrats on your parents being done with him. My husband has a brother who has done that kind of stuff his whole life. In and out of prison, and almost certainly unalived their beloved uncle. Their parents worship the ground he walks on. Lifelong eternal golden child. He is the preferred invite to holiday events over my successful engineer husband and our family of 6. The evil one is older now and out of prison, currently living in the aging parents' home and running the show. I hope your family is great and loves him, and you can spend all the holidays at their place. F his parents. I hope they'll enjoy their old age in the hands of a psychopath who'll take all their pension off them. My mother covered up for my sister until the day she died, but my sister was nowhere like this. She was just an alcoholic that got enough DUIs to go to prison for a short time. Even then, our mother said she was in inpatient treatment. The golden child never does anything wrong. My mom went to prison for 4 years when I was 5. Grandma adopted me because my dad was not fit. I was never mad. Always made my whole schedule around going to see her on visit days, answering every single phone call. She got out, got back with my dad. 45 days later, she had to finish her sentence. She got 10 years total, but only had to serve 4. I will never forget jumping on my trampoline, being handed a phone and hearing her tell me she got drunk and high. I stopped jumping and told her I am done. I grew up that day. So no, you're not the a-hole. Some people never learn a thing, and they expect sympathy for having a pattern of horrible decisions. Now for the last update. It may not have been the best idea, but I decided to have one final talk with my brother the other day before I made my decision to cut him off. After his episode at a hospital, he has been locked up for the time being. No one has even attempted to bail him out. I have no idea about how charges or a trial are going, but it will take a while. As far as I can tell, there is some matter of determining a possible psych hold, but there's a lot of gray area with that, and I frankly don't have much of an idea how that works and won't get myself more involved to find out. We only got the chance to talk for a few minutes. I didn't visit. He called me over the phone. I straight up asked him what was going on. Why did he do this? What caused the slip the last few weeks? And the thing was, I was expecting some emotional response, a plea for help, maybe even some reasoning. But that didn't happen. Instead, he asked, why not? I asked what he meant by that, and he just kinda smugly laughed a little. He started rambling about how the bitch, his ex, should watch out for him when he gets out. I quickly reminded him that these calls are monitored, and he needs to watch his freaking mouth. He told me to go F myself, and he only called to see if I would post his bail. I was practically pleading, asking him why he was doing this. He got agitated, said he doesn't freaking care, started screaming how he doesn't need us. And you could hear him get into a scuffle with what I'm assuming was an officer watching him before the call got cut. I was practically speechless. He doesn't care, and maybe never did. Some people in the comments and DMs were making assumptions about myself and my parents, how he handled his behavior and mental health care. Ever since he was a kid, my parents spent every spare dime and minute of their lives trying to help him. Pediatric mental health care, therapy, group activities, extracurriculars, anything to try and steer him on the right path. They put me on the back burner for years because of him. Our relationship almost got tanked because they wanted to help him so much. When he got out of prison and had his breakdown, it was practically a clean slate for him. He never apologized for what he did. He didn't have to own up to his family for what he put us through. We all just try to help. And he took the second chance people would crawl over broken glass for and threw it in our faces. Well, good for him. He gets what he wants, to be utterly alone in prison. I'm no fool. He likes to push us far and try and reel us back in. But after this, I am truly and utterly done. Our parents are in the process of removing him completely from their lives. They are livid. He's spending a much longer time in prison, and if he ever gets out and looks for someone to help him pick up the pieces of his life, he's going to be sorely disappointed. We try to help. He didn't want it. I'll answer some questions if anyone had any for a few days before torching the account. To be honest, I feel it would be wise to be sure that when/if he gets out, there is no one for him to come crawling to. I don't necessarily mean move, though that might be smart if it's possible to accomplish, especially for the ex who was literally threatened in your conversation. But I think you and your parents, and everyone, need to make your worlds as though he no longer exists. He gets out. Family? He has none. These people don't know him. Friends? I'd be shocked if he had any before he landed his stupid butt back in prison, so that might not be an issue. But it's time to burn the final bridge. Torch it down. Ashes to ashes, OP. Honestly, I felt this so hard. My brother has been a lot like OP's, except he got into drugs early, and that has probably gave him mental health issues. He has stolen from family, friends, and has pushed everyone away due to him being on drugs. He skipped out on the bail my mom posted for him, and then when caught, wanted me to pay for his bail. But I said no. I say that because he only half-heartedly apologizes about it, but then a minute later will ask for something from you. He only cares about himself, and doesn't care about anyone else, not even his kids. Unfortunately, by the time he gets out in the 2030s, our mother will more than likely be dead, and his kids might have kids of their own. He finally figured out that his actions have consequences. Some people are just born like that. It's not something that happened to them. We haven't really been able to find interventions to bring them back to live safely in the human community. And these people vacillate between outrage that they don't get to do whatever they want, and depression because their life sucks, and they cannot or will not grasp why. You all really tried. Now it's up to him to either stay in the system or get it together. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my in-laws out of my house after they disrespected my late father's memory? I, 25 female, lost my father a year ago. He was the kindest person in the world and worked as an EMT. He died after being hit by a drunk driver while trying to help another driver with a car trouble. He was my hero and a huge part of my life. He became a widower father to me when I was 7, and he was the best dad anybody could ever ask for. To honor his memory, I keep a small shrine in our living room with his photo, some of his belongings, and a few of his favorite things, along with his urn. It brings me comfort and helps me feel like he's still with me. My husband, 30 male, has always been supportive of this, but his parents, both in their 60s, have never understood. They think it's morbid and unhealthy to keep such a display. They've made their opinions known multiple times, but I've always brushed it off, explaining it helps me cope. This past weekend, my in-laws came to visit. From the moment they arrived, they were making snide comments about the shrine. My mother-in-law said, "It's time to let go of the past." And my father-in-law chimed in with, "It's not good for your mental health to live in a museum of grief." I told them, firmly but politely, that the shrine stays and is not up for discussion. Things escalated quickly. When I left the room to take a phone call, they decided to take matters into their own hands. I walked back in to find them packing away my father's things into a box. I was livid. I told them to stop immediately and put everything back. They refused, saying they were helping me move on. I lost it. I yelled at them to get out of my house. My mother-in-law started crying, saying I was ungrateful and that they were just trying to help. My father-in-law called me hysterical and said I was disrespecting them. My husband tried to mediate, but I was too furious to listen. I told them they had no right to touch my father's things, and that they were not welcome in my home if they couldn't respect my boundaries. I discovered as I was putting things back that some of my belongings I had placed on the shrine were gone. A small stuffed cat, his mat for Magic the Gathering, and a shot glass from screeching in when I went to Newfoundland with my mom before she died of cancer. All three things have very low value monetarily, but a lot of sentimental value. My husband has told me I'm overreacting over a molehill, and that I'm just sensitive because I was a daddy's girl when my dad was alive. I'm having a hard time letting go of my dad because we were so close. He was literally my best friend for the last 5 years of his life. I may be so swamped in my own grief that I was an a-hole over nothing. I'm confused and sad. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I would be on my way to the local police department to get a no trespassing, and to find out if what they did was considered a form of grave desecration, since this is literally where you have his ashes and the things he would have been buried with, had that been the route you chose. My next stop would be a lawyer to file for legal separation, since husband thinks it is fine for his parents to steal a dead person's effects. Your husband is the biggest a-hole here. He doesn't have your back. He let his parents put your father's belongings into a box while you were out of the room. They stole objects, and your husband is telling you that you are the problem? Screw him, not the a-hole. I think he may have instigated it. He may have complained, and his parents decided to take action. It is telling that he allowed it. My brother used to pull that same nonsense before he ended up divorced. Complain to mommy about wife. Mom comes to the rescue. Mom is the bad guy. Brother plays dumb. Is this the case here? Not a-hole. And F them all. Husband too. They're guests. They do not have the right to rearrange a single photo on a mantelpiece, let alone pack up and steal, /lose/break sentimental items. You can grieve as you choose. It is absolutely not their place to decide, while you are out of the room, to do anything like this. It's a year. Just a year. And it's not like you have given the whole house over to your wonderful father, or are living in a darkened room dressed all in black. This is a hill to die on, OP. Your husband is being so wrong. You being a daddy's girl makes his loss harder to bear, so he should have more compassion. Sorry for your loss, Hopi. I hope hubby can do something to save his own reputation with you, so he's not lost too. Also find out who took your property and get it back. Tell your in-laws that you will call the cops if your belongings are not returned by tonight. And sit hubby down and tell him in no uncertain terms will you let them in the house. If your husband can't support you in this, tell him to go back to his disrespectful parents. I'm sorry, OP, for your loss, and hugs from an internet stranger. I'm wondering if this was the reason for the visit all along, with the husband being in on it. Maybe I'm just too cynical about this, but it seems too abrupt to be a spur-of-the-moment action. How did they suddenly come up with a box? Right? Like they thought it was some kind of intervention and the husband grossly miscalculated. Yeah, I agree with this line of thought. OP, you're not the a-hole here and we all think your husband was part of this plan. Tell them you'll be calling the police if your belongings aren't immediately returned to you in their original condition, and tell your a-hole husband he's welcome to go home to mommy if your dad's memory is too intimidating for him to live with. Update. Thinking if I, 36 male, should leave my wife, 36 female, because she openly resents our son, 7. Original story. Neither of us were sure about having kids. We were married 5 years before finding out she was pregnant. Both nervous as hell, but in the end, she wanted to try having the baby, and I agreed. It was hard at first. Parenthood is in general, but I love my son. He's wonderful, smart, energetic, and warms my heart. My wife, for the most part, was great with him, but occasionally we both would get burned out and find some time to have date nights or individual free time. Over a year ago before lockdown, my wife started becoming very irritated over anything he'd do. Accidentally spill a little apple juice on the counter? She'd yell at him like if he'd just destroyed a family heirloom. It was something that happened every now and then, but we'd talk about it, and she would apologize to him. Pandemic was really rough. We both had our jobs, just were working from home and our son wasn't in school. At first, I thought the frustration came from being cooped up at home and not being able to go out. But my son's been going to school again for months, and we're all back to going out. Yet, things haven't improved. Finally had to sit down with my wife, because no matter what mood she's in, she could be happy and smiling. But when my son comes in, her mood shifts, and I notice it more now. My wife told me that for the longest time, she's resented having our son. Motherhood isn't what she thought it was going to be, and missed it only being the two of us. She didn't expect her life to be this way with a child, and she regrets having him at all. It was a hard conversation to have, but one we really needed to. I've talked to her about getting therapy, individual, couples, or both, whatever it takes. She's refused because she claims she doesn't need help. We have tried going on more date nights, being a couple if she feels like we're not getting enough of that. Having her spend some more one-on-one time with him, which she doesn't want to do. It doesn't matter. As soon as we get home and in our son's presence, she's more serious. I asked her once, does she love him? And my wife says that she does, just doesn't like him. That was painful. I want to work on this with her and get therapy, but she doesn't want to. What's pushing me to want to leave is because my son is starting to pick up on this. No 7-year-old kid should be asking why mom's always mad at him. I love my wife, but I'm scared of him growing up with someone who doesn't like him. Is this really it? Is the next best thing to leave, or is there any way to get her to understand I can't have our son living like this? Now for the top advice before reading the update. I grew up with a mother who loved me but didn't like me. She messed me up so hardcore. I'd let your wife know that if she isn't in therapy and making progress immediately, you'll be all done. Your kiddo comes first. I'm very sorry about your mother. That's exactly what I want to avoid with my son. He doesn't deserve any of this. I really hope another talk, this time with the mention of divorce if nothing improves, will get her to understand how serious I am this time. I also grew up with this. It also prompted me to spend most of my 20s in horrible relationships. And I also don't speak to the parent who loved me but didn't like me now, and haven't in years. You see, it seemed okay for me to be in relationships with partners who treated me with contempt, disgust, even sadism, because they also said they loved me, but just couldn't stand me because of X, Y, and Z. And to me, that's what love was. Being with someone who loved me but didn't like me, even despised me. And my job was to try everything to make my obviously defective self good enough to finally make them happy and stop mistreating me. Spoiler alert, that never works with these people. Like your wife. Their target is never good enough, because that's the game. Love doesn't justify psychologically destroying your child in a way that no therapist may ever be able to fix. Her love is pretty worthless in my view. It even creates a type of confusion that is extremely damaging. For anyone reading this and stuck in a relationship right now where someone is telling you they love you but don't like you, don't keep subjecting yourself to such treatment and hope to be good enough one day. Stick your middle fingers up and walk away immediately if you ever hear that phrase. Only accept relationships with people who like, respect, and value you naturally for the person that you are. Don't accept less from people, friends, family, partners. Your wife absolutely needs therapy. It sounds like she's in a very toxic place and taking out her frustration on your son. If she isn't willing to get the help she needs, you need to protect your son and leave. He is the innocent one in all this, and even if he's not showing it yet, this could create all kinds of trauma for him feeling that kind of rejection. That's my main concern too. I don't want this impacting him in a negative way, and can't play peacemaker every time she gets mad at him over any little thing, or just doesn't interact with him as much. All this time, I had hoped things would improve, and sadly that hasn't been the case. And now for the update. Well, it's been a hard few days, but it happened. Didn't want it to, but it needed to. I took my son out of there. Trying to talk with my wife about this a couple days after posting this got us nowhere. Even if therapy wasn't going to be the miracle that makes her want to be a mother to our son, I told her it wouldn't hurt to have somewhere to talk about her feelings. Get to the core of why she feels this way, and if maybe there's a way to work on it so that it wouldn't have a deep impact on how she is with him. She refused. And I asked her, does she ever think it will get better? As in, does my wife believe she could see herself caring for him and being what he needs at all in the future? The answer wasn't going to determine if I left or not, but that's something I just wanted to know for myself. She said no. When I told her that it's not going to work out between us because his well-being comes first, she begged me to stay. All these promises of not treating him negatively and putting on a face for him, but still will not do therapy at all because she doesn't need help. Then all of a sudden, she gets angry and told me to get out then if I only just want to be with my son. It was heartbreaking. We ended up leaving since she didn't want to leave the apartment. He was still half asleep when we left, so all I've told him so far is we're just taking a short vacation. He believes it since we're staying at a hotel for now, but he does keep asking about her. I'm trying my best to keep it together for him, but my heart's still broken though. I hate that it had to end like this, but many of you were right and I know this too. He had to come first, and this was already messing him up. I know it was the right choice. Feels like my life just came to a hard stop, and I'm just trying to get my bearings still. She hasn't contacted me since we left. My family's aware of what's happening though, so I'm glad to have their support. My sister offered to have my son spend a weekend with them so he could be with his cousins. Since he is not here right now, I decided to use some of my free time to type this up. Thank you for being the push I needed to do something. Deep down, I know it was what needed to be done. Guess just needed it to be said. Many of us grew up with parents who never should have had kids. It's amazing what you are doing for your son. You have changed the course of his life for the better. I wish you both all the best. I wish it didn't have to happen. That's life, I guess, but I needed to do better for him. He didn't deserve any of that. Thank you for making this choice. Often, the loving parent will remain because they are scared/think it's best. It's a heartbreaking choice, but it's the right one for everyone involved. Please don't forget that both you and your son will need therapy. Don't let yourself drag this with you for the years to come. You both deserve better. After having our son, his mother started getting really horrible, and we started to fight constantly. She finally admitted to me that she didn't want to be a mom and didn't want to be tied down into a relationship with me either. For context, I had broken up with her a couple of days before she found out she was pregnant, and she talked me back into our relationship and into keeping the baby. So her not wanting to be a mom or be in a relationship were news to me. Fast forward 12 years later, and we live on opposite sides of the country. Her with her new husband on the East Coast and me and my son on the West Coast. She calls him on FaceTime every night and comes to visit for a couple of weeks 2 or 3 times a year. It turned out to be the best thing for all of us. Her and I become friends, and she doesn't fight me on things related to our son. And she has a good relationship with our boy, gets to love her unconditionally from a distance, without all of her in-your-face negative complications. Years ago, when my family suddenly fell apart, I thought the world was ending. But now I realized it was the best thing for everyone, including my son. Stay strong, put your son first, don't talk bad about his mother, and have faith. Everything will work out in the end, I promise. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys were able to get to a better place. That's all I want for my son. This gives me some hope. Even if things don't change with her, I know it was the right move for my son. I appreciate you sharing this. You're doing the right thing. One day your boy will understand what you did for him, and a positive example you've set will shape him, the people he meets, the life he lives, and the lives of his children after him. Good luck, brother. This has been the hardest week of my life. Most nights I've stayed up crying. Aside from my son, this is the only thing that truly brought a smile to my face. So thank you very much for your lovely comment. I've got tears in my eyes, but for a different reason now. Next story. I kicked my brother and his family out and cut them off after they called my son a retard. I'm a widow, but before my husband passed, we adopted a baby boy. Our son, Jacob, 4 male, was diagnosed with ASD and global development delay last year. It was hard for me being a single mother, but my profession as a speech-language therapist helped a lot in dealing with my son's tantrums. He is nonverbal, so it takes a lot of patience and understanding. My brother Abe, 30 male, and his family, and 29 female, Sue 10 female, became homeless earlier this year. I have offered my home to them as I have an 8-bedroom house that I inherited from my husband's family. Everything seemed okay at home. Jacob goes to kindergarten 4 days a week, then on Fridays I go with him to therapy. My brother and his wife stay at home most of the time. They said they're looking for a job. It's been a while now, but I don't mind as I love my brother and I have more than enough to help them. The problem started when my niece keeps teasing Jacob. She would take his toys and iPad, ending in him throwing tantrums and being really upset. I've talked to my brother and aunt about it, and they said it's just a harmless play between cousins. What made me angry was when Sue entered Jacob's room. I've told her many times before that Jacob doesn't like anyone going to his room. She took my son's scoreboard, visual aid to help with communication, and played with it. I heard my son screaming and crying while banging his head on the wall. I told off Sue, and my brother and I got into an argument. I told him his daughter's picking on Jacob isn't acceptable, and that he needs to discipline his daughter. That's when my brother said that we wouldn't have been in this problem if I had returned that retard to the orphanage. I got so angry, told him to leave my house and I don't want to ever see him again. They left my house later that day, and I heard from a friend that they now live in a motel, emergency housing. I also stopped giving them money. Our parents said I should just forgive my brother and continue helping him as we are family, but I could never forgive what he said. Am I taking this too far? Now for the top comments. No, you are not. You should not forgive your brother at all. He isn't wrong here. If he wants forgiveness, he should be begging for you to forgive him. Exactly. Why isn't he trying to say sorry? Seriously, I can understand a slip of the tongue in the heat of the moment, but this sounds like a pattern of behavior that is only going to get worse if they can't figure out how to be responsible. You need to protect your son. Nobody else will, apparently. Your brother and his wife made choices in parenting that landed them in that hotel. They are homeless. A family member takes them in off the street, and they antagonize their host. They then tormented the host's special needs child and insult him to his mother's face. This isn't very smart behavior in itself. Your parents are pressuring you to cave into this mistreatment because then the brother isn't their problem. It's the stupidest thing I've read in a long while. Biting the hand that feeds you doesn't even cover it. Wow. Last story is titled, My 24 female sister, 30, hid her pregnancy from me so that I could move into a house she could only afford if I was renting. Now that I want to move out, some friends are telling me I shouldn't as she can't afford to be on her own. I feel stuck. I moved in with my sister almost 4 years ago. She took me in when I had nowhere else to go, and I had been forever grateful. I live with my sister, her husband, and 4 children. Although it's a lot of us, I've always had my own room, and I paid $600 for it. Unfortunately, they're not very financially stable, so my rent money goes a long way for them. The apartments we live in weren't great, but there wasn't much to complain about. Around April of this year, she suddenly told me the apartment management had told her the contract wasn't getting renewed, and that it ended in May. That was in less than a month, so I didn't have time to find roommates or a new place. I was stressing. The next day, though, she told me she had seen a house already. More space, big backyard, and that I could get my own bathroom, plus a parking garage. My rent would be $800 now, but with all that included plus since the kids would have their own room, I could use the kitchen a lot more. I said yes, as it's not like I had any other options. Fast forward to now. That was all a lie. I pay $800, which is almost my whole check, and my bathroom is everyone's bathroom. She has a bathroom in her room, but says she likes mine better as it has a tub and a bigger sink and space. She showers all the kids plus the dog there, and my bathroom is always dirty. The parking garage she took because they had 2 cars, and it's easier on them to use both garages. I've had it, and I want to move out. Then yesterday morning, I woke up to the kids telling me they have a new baby sister. I was confused, until my brother-in-law came into the kitchen and told me my sister had given birth to a baby girl and showed me pictures. My sister had been pregnant this whole time and didn't even tell me. She's a bit on the chunky side, so it wasn't noticeable at all. I also work all day and go to school, so I never noticed any pregnancy symptoms. I am so angry as I realize now that she tricked me into moving. She kept her pregnancy as a secret because she knew I wouldn't want to move with her. 5 kids now. 5 damn kids when they aren't financially stable. I want to move out, but I know without my $800, they can't afford a place. They'd have to find a place elsewhere and pay for something they can't afford. I feel stuck. I don't want to live here anymore. I come home tired every day from work to screaming children, and my sister constantly going off on the kids. Some of my friends have said it's not that big of a deal, and I should just stay since I'm rarely ever home. And I should stay since I know they can't afford anything without me. But I'm angry. $800 is so much money for a room. It's too much money for everything I put up with. And the fact that she hid her pregnancy and tricked me into moving here just for her own benefit is crazy. Who does that? Surprise, I've been pregnant this whole 9 months? She's an adult with a husband. She's not your responsibility. To hell with folks telling you to stay. It's easy to promote when they aren't living in it. Get out ASAP and never look back, as far as regret. Yes, they helped you out, but now it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. Get out in the world and not be a burden to her family. See what I did there? I've given you a few talking points when you break the news to her and your brother-in-law. Also a rebuttal to folks who want you to stay because they need your income. Move out and take care of yourself. You're not responsible for your sister or her children. She should not have had 5 kids if she and her husband can't provide for them. I agree that she tricked you and takes advantage of you by constantly using your bathroom and refusing to share the garage. For your own happiness, move out. It might strain or damage your relationship with her, but are you prepared to live like this forever just to appease her? It's going to be difficult no matter what you choose, but know that your chances of living your life happily are probably higher if you put yourself first. I wish you luck. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my sister for crashing my car? Original post. My stepsister, female 21, crashed my female 18 new car after I told her she couldn't use it again. My stepsister, we'll call Paula, had 2 cars. Both she got from her dad and my mom, and she destroyed both of them within months of getting them. My mom and her dad got married when I was 11 after my dad died 3 years prior. I had a hard time accepting her dad and her, but in the end I got used to it, and we have a solid relationship, or at least her dad and me. Paula got her first car when she was 17, just after she got her license. It was an older Audi she got from her dad. It wasn't the nicest car, but a good start. She didn't like the car, but it was better than nothing, so she used it. But after 4 months, she crashed it into my mom's car as she was coming back from a party. The second car she got last year for Christmas. My mom and her dad bought it for her. But guess what? She drove it into the river on New Year's because she forgot to put the handbrake on. My mom and her dad were furious, but she didn't care. She said she would just buy a new car and they should chill out. She moved out afterwards to her own apartment. So I just bought myself my dream car, a Mini Cooper 2014. I did years of saving for it. My stepsister visited 2 weeks ago over the weekend while I was at my grandparents' house, so she thought she could use my car while I was gone and drove shopping with it. When I got home, I saw a huge scratch at the back. I asked my mom how it got there, and she was clueless. She didn't know Paula took the car while they were sleeping. Paula, looking all innocent, said she took the car on a little shopping tour because I wasn't using it. I was so angry at her and said if she ever uses my car again without my permission, I would kick her butt to the moon and back. She said she was sorry and that some idiot scratched it, not her. When I was coming home today, I saw my car crashed into the wall in front of our house, and Paula, my mom, and her dad standing beside it. I was furious. I asked what happened and why my car was in the wall. Paula said she accidentally crashed it because she wanted to drive it to the nail salon and she confused the front and reverse gears. I exploded. I screamed at her that I want her to pay for the car and that she was a horrible person because she didn't even look guilty for destroying it, and she should never drive a car again in her life because all she does is cause accidents. I stormed away and locked myself in my room. Her dad said I should forgive her and that it was an accident and that we were sisters. I was shocked and so disappointed in my mom because she said nothing against it. I said that she wasn't my sister and I would never forgive her, and that I would move to my grandparents, and that she should better pay for my car or I would sue her. He said that I was a brat talking to them like that and that not forgiving her would make me a bad human being. So am I the a-hole for not forgiving her? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is lunacy. Is she wasted 24/7 or something? Does she even have a license or insurance? She got her license after her third try and almost got it withdrawn for speeding, but my uncle works at a police station, so she always gets out of trouble. Not the a-hole. She stole your car, drove it, then wrecked it. She did not have your permission to use it, therefore it was stolen. Personally, I'd report her to the police and press charges. If that doesn't get her attention, then I am afraid nothing will. The facts are clear. No permission to use it plus person uses it anyway equals theft of car. Yep, this. Plus, OP's insurance rates will go up if it's an accident OP allowed. Call the police and report it as an unauthorized use of the car. Call insurance and make sure they know that the driver was explicitly prohibited from using the car. Take the payout from insurance and buy a new car. Stepsister can then deal with the insurance companies collecting from her or her insurance. If that means her rates go through the roof or she has legal problems, too freaking bad. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If you're 18, the car is in your name and you paid for it, report it stolen. She needs to see consequences for carelessness. Have her charged with theft and tell her you won't drop charges unless she pays up immediately and both your parents apologize to you. Then, move to your grandparents as you can't trust any of them. Now for the first update. Today morning, I got a call from my stepdad saying Paula came crying and drunk driving in a car to them and begged him to try to change my mind to the police because she doesn't want to get into trouble. He said if I go to the police, my uncle won't do anything for me and that I'm no longer welcome at home. I just got back from the police station and filed a report of theft and damage to property against Paula, but turned out Paula and her dad called the police and said that I would frame her and that I crashed the car into the wall myself. So I'm on the way to a lawyer to help me with all of that. I also called my insurance company and they said that would work on getting me the money I deserve. I'm now living at my grandparents' house and will distance myself from the rest for a while. Some of you had some questions about stuff, so I don't know why my mom didn't say anything against Paula and her dad. She's normally very vocal on her bad driving skills. Paula got both cars bought for her because she doesn't have the money to buy one herself, but I had to, so they only bought her the cars. When she crashed into my mom's car, she only damaged the right side of the car, so my mom wasn't that angry at her. And Paula always got out of trouble because my uncle always got her out of it. She got her license after the third time trying and only after my mom helped her out. She also got into an accident when she drove my mom's car and went to hospital for a broken leg, but nothing really happened to the car. I will update when something happens, and thank you for all the support and the comments. It helped a lot. With family like that, who needs enemies? Selfish to the core. Only contact them via text or email so you can get proof of communication for your lawyer. I would also report her reckless driving to your local driving. Advise them of the cars she has damaged and totaled, and the fact she has done the same to your vehicle by taking it without permission. Let them know, because of her reckless driving, that you are concerned that she will end up killing someone. I'm glad you are with her grandparents now. I think your mom is being pretty spineless for not standing up for you. I wish you well. Please let us know how you get on. I am so sorry you're going through this. Your parents and stepsister are absolutely horrible humans, and your stepfather had the audacity to say you were a horrible human. I also hope they get in trouble for filing accusations against you with the police that are false. Hang in there, and try to keep your head up. Second update. Just found out that my stepsister tried to fight my mom after she contacted me and wanted me to come back home. She's in the hospital right now because Paula broke her nose. I'm now on my way to her, and hope she's alright and sees what kind of a person she really is. Paula also got arrested for stealing the car from a neighbor, and my stepdad is not talking to my mom or me right now, and my mom is thinking about getting a divorce. I don't really know what to say. I'm just overwhelmed with the situation right now, so yeah. She stole the neighbor's car? While being investigated for stealing a different car, and stepdad is mad at them? What the actual hell is wrong with this girl? Let's think about it. She got away with crashing 2 cars. Nobody other than OP cares she's driving drunk. She thinks she literally has cops wrapped around her finger. So yes, it is not hard to believe she thinks she can add thefts to this chain of mess. She never had any reason to restrain herself. That helpful family, that sweet uncle, is literally pushing this lady and anyone around her to death. Good cop records won't help you if you are having eternal sleep underground, or you can't move your fingers anymore. She could also have some kind of personality disorder. She has 0 impulse control. I mean, breaking mom's nose after she supported her for so long? Stealing and crashing car after car? Continuing to drive drunk when any sane person would have stopped after the first crash? What kind of a dumbass would take a neighbor's car? Same dumbass that would wreck 3 cars and not consider that maybe she should change her habits. Really though, seems like alcohol or substance abuse may be a factor. Opie mentioned that she drove drunk to her parents. What are the odds she had been not sober the other times too? Being drunk or high would explain why she'd be dumb enough to steal a neighbor's car. I had a friend in high school who needed to take her driver's test, something like 12 times. They let you retake only the parts of the test you failed previously. So she incrementally passed it, a few skills at a time. I rode with her exactly once, and afterward silently swore I would never get in a car she was behind the wheel of again. It's kind of amazing that people can be that terrible at driving and not realize they need to stop doing it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my kid if he can't share his food, it might be time for him to move out? On Valentine's Day, I got 2 large pizzas for my family to eat, and then I went to work. When I got home from my night shift, I went into the fridge and saw that there was still half a pizza left. I warmed up 3 slices for my supper and watched some TV with my cat while I ate. My son got up before I went to bed and looked in the fridge, and he got upset that I ate the food he was planning on taking for his lunch. There was lots of other food in the fridge, but he said he told his mom that he was taking the pizza for lunch and that I was greedy for eating it. I asked him if he would be greedy for taking the pizza for lunch, and he got pissy and left. My wife woke up when she heard us arguing, and she said that he had asked her and she said yes. I said, great, where's my dinner then? She said she didn't make me anything since there were leftovers. I asked her what leftovers, and a light bulb went off in her head. She said she was sorry for not making me dinner. I told her it wasn't her fault. There were leftovers. Then my son came back into the room and started arguing again that he had already claimed the leftovers for himself. This is where I might be the a-hole. I asked him how much he paid for the food. $0. How much he paid in rent. $0. Utilities. $0. We are letting him live here so he can save money while he's in college. But I'm sick of this entitled little jerk-off. So I told him if he had a problem with me eating his leftovers, maybe he should move out so he can have his food safely stored away from me. My wife says I'm taking it too far, but he backed down pretty quick and said no, and that he was sorry for saying anything. My wife says I'm being an a-hole for scaring him with kicking him out over some leftover pizza. But I'm not. I'm making sure he knows the best way to keep food that I paid for safe from me is to live elsewhere and buy your own food. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Reading the comments, he is 22. He is living at home rent-free. He isn't contributing to the household budget, and he thinks he can claim food you paid for. Unless you took it out of his lunch bag, you are not the a-hole. Info, does he have a job? He has a job. We are letting him stay here so he can save money. We are even paying for his college. He doesn't help out with anything except chores around the house. Not wrong that there's a little whiff of entitlement, but he seemed pretty straightened out after you pointed out costs here. But is your wife a bit of an enabler? She seems to jump to giving him his way in all of this. His leftovers? Leftovers are only leftovers when everyone has had their share for the meal. Your retort to him about what bills he pays in the house is pretty spot on. That's something any parent I know would say. Sucks being on the receiving end of that quip, but it is valid. Your wife sounds like an enabler, and is just as selfish as your son if she allows him to claim a half pizza for his lunch after you went without. He does sound like a turd. Sorry you have to deal with him. Not the a-hole. Exactly this. It's not leftovers if everyone hasn't eaten. It's still dinner. This is how my 4-year-old may behave if we eat the last strawberry he's saving in the fridge. Even then I feel I need to gently teach him to be considerate. OP, not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I will stop gambling when she stops buying art supplies? My wife, 29 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for 3 years. We are currently saving up to buy our first house. We started saving about a year ago and are hoping to buy a home this summer if the market in our area adjusts in a beneficial direction. We are already pre-qualified with a lender and are closing in on our goal amount for the down payment. Once a month, I will go to a nearby casino and spend some time gambling. I do the same thing every time I go. I put $200 in one pocket and use that for gambling, and anything I win goes into a different pocket. Once the $200 is gone, I leave with whatever money I have in the other pocket. I usually just sit at a $5 blackjack table, since that's the game I enjoy the most. And if I just make minimum $5 bets, I can play for a couple hours and call it a night. Most nights I end up around even, but sometimes I lose $100 to $150, and a few times I've come home with an extra $200 to $300. I never, ever take out more than the $200 I allow myself to start with. And if I come home with winnings, that money goes directly to the house fund. My wife, on the other hand, is an artist and spends a lot of her free time painting and drawing. She has a very large collection of paint and other supplies and spends a lot of money on her supplies and equipment. She will sometimes sell a painting or drawing to friends or family, but she mostly just does it for her own enjoyment and relaxation. She doesn't do commissions or anything that would make money off her art. This past weekend, I was going to go to the casino, but my wife stopped me before I left. She said I shouldn't be going to the casino and throwing money away when we are trying to save for a house. I told her that I don't see how me going to the casino once a month for $200 is any different than her buying new art supplies. I gestured towards a box of new art supplies my wife had just gotten and asked her how much all of it cost. She didn't answer that and said that it's different because art is a hobby for her and gambling could lead to addiction. I reminded her of my system and that I never stray from it. I told her I just do this because I enjoy it, like a hobby, and that anything I come home with goes into the house fund anyway. She said if I had just taken all the money I spent at the casino, we could already be at our goal by now. And I told her I could say the same thing about her art supplies. I told her I will make a deal with her. I will stop going to the casino if she can go 2 full months without buying new art supplies and only using the things she already has. She told me that's not a fair deal because she's always discovering new things she needs as she progresses through projects. I told her in that case I'll be home from the casino in a few hours. She got mad at me and told me I'm being a selfish jerk and for caring more about gambling than getting a house. I left instead of fighting with her. Ended up coming home up $150. Not the a-hole. This is your hobby. You have a set limit, it's once a month. Sounds reasonable. Agreed. Gambling can be an addiction, but it sounds like it's just something you enjoy doing and have control over. Anything can be an addiction. Just because gambling is a problematic one for lots of people doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. As long as you're being responsible and you get enjoyment out of it, and occasionally even make money, then definitely not the a-hole. Your wife has to accept that your hobby is somewhat unorthodox, but you derive pleasure from it, and she shouldn't try to stop you unless you start changing the rules. As in going once a week, or upping your $200 limit to $400, or going for broke like no savings pocket every time. Not the a-hole. I'm not a big fan of gambling either, but you have a very reasonable set of boundaries. It's a hobby. As long as you stick to your boundaries, you'll be fine. Admittedly, I also have a craft supply problem myself. I think you should probably sit down together and make a budget in which both of you set aside an equal amount of fun money that you can individually use on your chosen hobbies, whatever those hobbies are. The other person doesn't get to pass judgment on what you do with it, so long as you keep to that budget. I'm honestly very impressed that OP's so disciplined. I was expecting this to be more of an addiction, but it's very much a hobby for them, not the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change the ownership of the house I bought for my parents? Original post. I, 33, female, owned multiple businesses. I'm not really rich, but since I'm single and childless, I have a lot of spare money. I also saved a lot for my retirement since I don't plan to marry and have children. I'm the youngest of my siblings, and the one that made most money. My elder siblings sacrificed a lot for me to get education since my father passed away when I was 17. I'm forever grateful for them. My stepfather, Dan, 68 male, has 10 children with his previous wife. His previous wife passed away from cancer years ago. Dan and my mother, Susan, 58 female, was introduced when I was 20. I don't like his family. His children are all greedy and selfish. In my country, it's our culture to give money to our parents after we started working. Poor Dan was a school principal, but he loaned a lot of money for all his children, making sure they won't be trapped with student debts. In the end, his monthly pension money will be deducted from the bank to pay debts with little left for their expenses. Luckily, my parents have a farm and that helped them to earn money. My step-siblings always ignored him when he asked for money, and my siblings were always the one that said money. My step-siblings will ask for vegetables and chickens from the farm for free. They didn't even go inside Dan's house, which is considered rude. They just took the things they needed and left. They rarely came back to visit them, and when they did, they rarely buy groceries. I worked hard to earn money for my family. I figured if I have money, I could solve all their problems and make their worries and sadness from poverty go away. So, 3 years ago, I bought a house for them and renovated it to their liking. The house is even bigger than my house and Dan's previous house. They can keep their dogs, fishes, chickens, and ducks. Dan is a good person. He helped me and my siblings when we were very poor. I paid for the house maintenance, hired housekeepers, and bought groceries every month. I gave them pocket money every month too. I made sure they would never lack of anything or need to work hard again, and all they need to do is relax in their old age. My step-siblings started to come frequently, stayed there at weekends, and ate the groceries that I bought. All the groceries are high quality. I only buy the best for my parents. Heck, they don't even cook. They expect my mother to cook for them. If not for the 2 housekeepers, my mother will be tired keeping the house clean because all of them are lazy bums. Their children throw snacks on the floor. Me and my siblings appeared amicable with my step-siblings, but we expressed our disapproval behind their backs. We know they do the same. They're two-faced after all. They even ask for some money from my stepfather sometimes, the pocket money that I gave him every month. My stepfather will always give some of his money every time, much to my frustration. They're a chef, accountants, manager, and teachers, mind you. A week ago, I came back alone to my hometown and stayed in my parents' house. I came to see if my parents lack anything in the house and to see the dogs and 2 cats. 3 of my step-siblings were there, with their family. We all talked for a bit in the living room and then the topic of the house ownership came up. Apparently, my step-brother thought the house is on Dan's name. I told them the house is still in my name. They got upset and passive-aggressively said I don't trust or care about Dan or my mother. I asked why does it matter since Dan and my mother live a comfortable life and I would never kick them out. Dan, being a passive-aggressive individual himself, shut them out and praised me, saying that I'm not his daughter but still do more. They were offended and went home that night. They have been making passive-aggressive posts about being controlling on Facebook ever since. My siblings made passive-aggressive posts as well. Most of it are mocking quotes about greedy and shameless people. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change the ownership of the house? Does it matter when I managed everything in the house? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. The step beasts want to get a loan on the house, and you messed up their plan. Thank you. They accused me of being controlling, which is ridiculous. The only thing you're controlling is their ability to monetize the home your mom and stepfather live in. They had plans for that money, and it went up in pretty spiraling colored smoke before their eyes. Had it been in his name and he passed first, I guarantee they would have put your mom on the streets within a few months. You're a good person. They are greedy and grateful leeches. Please don't let them bring you down and never let their words take hold. They will always be out for themselves and can't be trusted. Yeah, Opie, you suck for not letting these people take further advantage of your parents. The fact is, if the homes were in Dan's name, they would kick your mom out before your stepdad is even in the ground. I would still add cameras to the property. I'm sure the second your parents aren't in that home, they will descend and take everything not nailed down, and wouldn't put it past them to squat. If I had a power to stop them from coming, I would have done it. Unfortunately, Dan is stubborn. He made a choice to let his children come because that's the only time he sees them. I already installed CCTV in a few areas in the house. Not the a-hole. They're just pissed and hoped you put it in Dan's name so when he dies, they'll get it. It's all about them as always. You were smart to keep it in your name. Otherwise, if it was in Dan's and he passed away first, your mom would end up homeless as they would kick her out. That's what I'm thinking. Dan has his own house. No one lives there for now, so they can take that instead. Can be even worse. Not sure what country you're from, but maybe they could consider putting your father in a care home in a few years and throwing your mom out. One house is not enough. They may want all the houses they can get their grubby paws on. They're sus. Don't ever let them get any advantage or they might just fully show their butts. You're a good kid to your parents. I love how you take care of them. Oh, definitely. They don't want the old house because the house is old and not as nice as the new house. The old house is not renovated and properly maintained. Update. Hello, I know my story is a bit boring, but I will give an update nonetheless. I was planning to visit my parents in my hometown this weekend with my siblings to talk to Dan about my step-siblings' behavior. Turns out, Dan already talked to them in their family group chat. My step-siblings were angry. 6 step-siblings threatened to leave the group chat and stop contacting him. Dan said so be it. They didn't do it. I will make it short. 1. Step-siblings spread rumors about me being someone's sugar baby. My nosy aunt heard about the rumor and told my mother and Dan, telling them how ridiculous the rumor was. 2. Dan snapped in the group chat and disowned them. He kicked 6 of my step-siblings that spread a rumor out of the group chat. 3. The 4 youngest step-siblings remain in the group. Unlike the elder siblings, they lost their mom when they were young, so they see my mother as their mom. Apparently, their elder siblings borrow, meaning coerce, money from them every month. They also decided to go no contact with their elder siblings. Me and my family blocked the 6 greedy demons. Thank you for the encouraging words from previous post. Have a nice day, everyone. Finally, an ending that doesn't make me rage. Trash took itself out. If not for that, this would still be a crap show. Even better, stepdad threw his own a-hole Bayou kids out for being an a-hole to OP. I have the feeling that this one's not done yet. There's still a lot of things that the step-siblings can do that would mess things up. And in less individualistic societies, things are never easy. At least OP and step-parents seem to have their heads and hearts in the right place. As always, laughing out loud at the parasites threatening to go no contact. Oh no, what will Dan do? Kowtow to the parasites? Or respect the stepchild looking after him and his wife? How will this round of F-around it find out unfold? My mother-in-law is essentially no contact with me. I am purposefully no contact. And I think she believes she's punishing me while I'm just blissfully existing. It's so nice not being roped into crap all the time anymore. And having to avoid rocking the boat. Or rather, work on keeping that boat from tipping over. She can drown for all I care. These people want to believe they're so important so badly, and then when it backfires, they're super surprised. No, not having to placate and take abuse isn't a particular hardship. Some people are so full of themselves they think the sun shines out of their behinds. Therefore, not speaking with them is some unbearable punishment. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my brother's wedding because he didn't want to invite me in the first place? Plus updates. Original post. So for context, I, 21 female, have an older brother, 25 male, who is getting married later this year. We used to be somewhat close when we were growing up, but drifted apart after I met his now fiancée, 24 female. From the start, his girlfriend and I didn't really get along, but I've always kept it civil for the sake of him and my family, so there are no bad feelings between us. Or so I thought. My grandmother called me up about 4 weeks ago to ask if I wanted to go dress shopping with her for the wedding, and I was so confused because I didn't even know my brother was engaged. I thought nothing of it and assumed they didn't mention it because I don't live with my parents anymore, but did find it somewhat strange that no one posted anything about the proposal until I found his girlfriend's private Instagram account in my boyfriend's phone because she blocked me. About a week ago, my mom called me and told me that the invitations were sent out that day and asked if I got mine, because my brother's girlfriend was supposed to give them to my boyfriend since they work at the same company. I said no, and she was very irritated. She called me back after talking to my brother and told me that she's inviting us to the wedding and I don't need an invitation. So I said that I am not going to the wedding without an invite, and that if they didn't want me at the wedding, I don't want to be there. Now, my family is saying I'm the a-hole for not accepting the invitation, my mother inviting me over the phone and saying that I want to ruin her wedding day. So, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments before reading the updates. Nope, I sure as heck wouldn't go either in that case. Your mother has every reason to be upset, but with your brother and his wife, not with you. Your mother can't claim you didn't accept the invitation because there was none, and it's not on her to invite you. You weren't invited, and attending the wedding would just put you in a really uncomfortable and awkward position. It would be another matter if, at the very least, your brother had called you to apologize and personally ask you to attend. But he didn't. Maybe he still will, but it's a little too late for that in my opinion. This. Brother doesn't want her there. Whatever the reason, don't go. They'll be unhappy. You'll be unhappy. No good can come of your going. Sounds like mom is trying to play happy family. If you want to solve the problem, then address the problem. Asking everyone to play happy is insulting and cruel. Opie will be sitting there, skin crawling in discomfort. At least that's how I'd feel. That was always one of my mother's lines. I told her when they start paying my bills, I'll start caring what they think. Mom is beefing up with the wrong person. They're beefing with the person they think is most likely to cave. Plus, she only has to deal with one person then, not her son, his fiancé, and possibly fiancé's family. I think she's failing to realize that it's too late. The damage has been done. If fiancé now turns around and says, oopsie, it won't be believed. And if she now sends an invite, OP probably will RSVP no. Not the a-hole, but please ask your parents why you didn't even know your brother was engaged and what the justification is for that. Ask your mom how she would feel if she found out about the engagement from another family member. Frankly, even if I got an invite, by this point I would decline. Now for the first update. Thank you for everyone's comments. I only posted a story today, but I already have the update because it just happened a few hours ago. My parents and my brother showed up at my house. Luckily, my boyfriend was home too. Oh, and I'm so not going to the wedding. This is what happened. My brother's fiancé does indeed not want me at the wedding. My parents and brother are trying to convince her to invite me. No thanks, not after everything. They came to our house to tell me I should apologize to my brother's girlfriend. I was totally fine with it. I only wanted to know what it was I was apologizing for, which is where I might be the a-hole. They told me that they couldn't tell me what it was, but that it happened 2 years ago when future sister-in-law and I used to work together at the same company. I tried to find out what it was, but they wouldn't tell me. My boyfriend got a bit upset about everything and told them that if they can't even tell me what I did wrong, he sees no reason for me to apologize. My brother then let us know that he doesn't care if we don't attend, but my grandparents told him if he doesn't invite me, they're also not going, and that's the only reason they want me there. So I decided that I'm not going to the wedding. Me and my boyfriend are going on a trip for the weekend. Not to be petty or anything, we're just going to enjoy ourselves. I really appreciate everyone's positive comments. Apologize. For what? Something from 2 years ago, but we won't tell you what. That is seriously insane, OP. Enjoy your trip. It's a power trip thing. I'd be willing to bet there's no thing from 2 years ago. Fiancé is just pushing the boundaries of what she can manipulate this family into doing. Good on OP for washing her hands off the whole ordeal. Agreed. And the parents going along with the stupidity gives off strong golden child vibes. Good for the grandparents. They should go for a mini vacay that weekend too. Take the grandparents with you. I would contact the grandparents directly, or go see them if you can and tell them exactly what you were told by your parents and brother. If they decide not to attend the wedding, then I would invite them on a weekend trip along with you and your boyfriend. Take them someplace that they would love to see or visit. I did this many years ago when my cousin did not invite several of the other cousins to her wedding. Grandmother refused to attend when she found out. All of the uninvited banded together and took grandmother on a week-long cruise. She had never been out of the state where she lived, and she had a blast. One cousin got us all t-shirts that proudly stated the uninvited on the front, so we all took a photo with the shirts before boarding the ship and posted it on everyone's Facebook pages. The groom did not know that this was all going on, and he almost called off the wedding. They split about 2 years later once he learned how petty his bride could be. I love that idea, totally inviting them with us. Sweetie, please go ahead and enjoy your mini vacation. Never allow anyone to gaslight you into doing their biddings. There's absolutely no economical benefit of attending the wedding. Not the a-hole. Second update. So my grandparents actually called me the following morning asking if I got invited to the wedding. I said no, and they were so mad. Turns out, my grandparents were paying for the wedding. My brother told everyone he was paying for everything himself, but nope. My grandparents are now not paying for the wedding, after a future sister-in-law also refused to tell them what she is upset about. My parents have stepped up to cover the rest of the wedding expenses, and my grandparents, my boyfriend and I will be enjoying a great weekend. Thank you to everyone's comments and advice. I really appreciate it. My parents have stepped up to cover the rest of the wedding expenses. Your parents freaking suck. Your brother is excluding you from his wedding. He won't tell you why. And not only are your parents okay with it, they're stepping up and helping pay for the wedding? Gross. I tell the parents to buzz off, since your grandparents are being more parental than your actual parents are capable of. Well, now OP knows who to cut out of her life. They made it easy for her. Don't you love it when trash takes itself out? Your parents are the a-holes. So when you get married, are they paying for your wedding? Will they demand you invite your brother and future sister-in-law or they won't pay? She can't say what it is you did, but you have to apologize. It must be so petty that if she told, she would in fact be the a-hole. Enjoy the day with your grandparents and your boyfriend. Save yourself the money and grief. To me, I wouldn't even do holidays with them. Your parents picked sides, not you, and they can enjoy the fruits of their labor.